Welcome to Nerf&Turf. I'm Andrew, and on today's episode of Nerf&Turf, we're going to be talking about the Recon slash Retaliator slash Recon slash I don't know really what to call it anymore. So here we have the Recon. It was one of, not the first, but it was one of the first breach system magazine-fed blasters that was spring-powered because, you know, they had the Stampede, and that was the first 18-stick mag, and then, you know, they had the Deploy, the Recon, the Long Shot, all those variables. But the Recon holds a very special place in my heart because it was actually my first breach system blaster that I got when I was a kid growing up. And so I just wanted to talk about that and the slow progression of the Recon and I guess the whole evolution of Nerf and what they're doing with their blasters now. So let's talk about that. So here I have the Recon CS6. Now I don't have all the attachments attached to it currently because I've done some work on them and I don't have them in their original form at the moment. But what we have here is the stock that came with it, and there originally was a very long barrel that came off the top that had a top and bottom rail, and then you had a laser sight, and then you had a normal sight that you could put on it. So it was full of attachments. So their claim with the Recon was that you could have so many blasters in one. I think they said like 6 or 9 in one blasters because this is one blaster, and then if I take the stock off, it's just a pistol, and that's a new blaster, was their claim. Because at the base, the Recon is a pretty small blaster. It's essentially a pistol that you pull back, so that's primed it, and then you just put a magazine in through the bottom, and then you're ready to go. And the problem with the Recon was, I'll get into that in a minute, just the whole problem with that. But it was a pretty pathetic shooting blaster. It didn't shoot far at all. You couldn't get a high rate of fire because it wasn't slam fire enabled. But it was just super neat to have so many attachments. And I just remember as a kid playing around, I thought I was the coolest person in the world playing with this until I got my hands on a hard shooting blaster. And then I realized, oh wow, this doesn't shoot hard at all. So next, let's go to the next variation of this. So after the Recon, we moved up to the Retaliator, which was literally the exact same thing as a Recon, but with a different paint scheme, and they called it the Retaliator, and it was a part of the Elite series. The other one was the In-Strike series, so all the yellow blasters, and this was the first Elite blaster, so that's when they went from the streamlined darts that are a little bit longer and a little bit more terrible to the Elite darts that are a little less terrible and shorter. And so that's when we got this. And so the Retaliator originally sold with its own stock that was much shorter than the Recon stock. The same barrel, different attachments and stuff, but the same base blaster that's a breech load, put it in through the bottom, and you're ready to go. The thing about this was, it was essentially the exact same blaster. The shell was very similar, maybe minor modifications. I know the adapter back here, the plunger tube was a little different, but the internals were slightly different because the plunger system changed just a little bit and the spring itself was more powerful, so you could get much better hits out of this. This got much closer to that 70 feet per second average that most Nerf blasters, especially the Elite blasters, are getting, whereas the In-Strike blasters were hitting 50, 60 feet per second, something like that. And so that's what you had with this. And so it was the exact same package, but it shot a little better. But they decided to go from the Recon to the Retaliator. And then finally, we have the Recon Mark II, because it made the most sense for them to go from Recon to Retaliator to Recon Mark II. Come on, Nerf. Just so many questions for that. This one I happen to have the original attachments for. Believe it or not, I found this in a thrift store the other day with the original attachments, which was crazy. It's got a very small barrel extension, which I kind of like actually. So it's not too long to impede the dart's progress, which the longer barrels that came on the Recon and the Retaliator, they were so long that you could tell that it affected how the darts would fire. So this is very short, but it still looks pretty cool. And then it's got a little tactical rail at the bottom there, so you can put a foregrip on that if you really wanted to. And then the same priming system. And then just an itty bitty little stock. And then it also had a handguard, and the problem with this was the handguard and the mag rail itself was the original variation that they sold of the Recon Mark II. It only accepted the 6-dart magazine that came with the blaster, not a 10, 12, 18, or a drum. Those just wouldn't fit, and so they fixed that part. apart, and props to Nerf that they had people send in theirs and they would send them back the proper one that fixed that problem so it could accept all magazines. So that was very interesting. In my opinion, this one looks so much cooler than the other two. I don't know why. It just has a really fun flair to it. It just feels like an SMG, and it's pretty sweet. Yes, they gave fewer attachments and stuff than the other blasters. No, I didn't have all those attachments to show you. But with the other blasters, you felt you were getting this amazing blaster with so many attachments. Whereas with this, all you got was the barrel attachment and the stock, but I mean, they still looked pretty cool, so you gotta go with that. And I love this barrel attachment because it's very similar to all the barrel attachments I'm designing currently on my Etsy store that I'm selling. They're much smaller and shorter, and so they still look pretty cool, but they're not impeding the dart's progress. They're not so long that the dart rattles and gets stuck before it ejects, because that's not really how these plunger spring blasters and even the flywheel blasters, having a longer barrel isn't helping your accuracy, your power, or anything, since it's not compressed air or anything like that. An actual sniper rifle, the longer the barrel, the more you're compressing that ejection, and that's not what's happening here. It's just slowing it down in the chamber. But in my opinion, this one looks the most handsome. It's pretty sweet. I just love the feel and the look of this blaster. And again, yes, you can take all the attachments off, and then at the end you just have this base looking pistol blaster, which is just the interesting thing. And this was the Modula series variant of the Recon. And then what from here, they went, in my opinion, the Mediator still falls in this category because it's a small base pistol that you can then put attachments on to make it into a full assault rifle looking blaster. But at the base, at the heart of it, it's just a pistol that you can add stuff to. Another reason I love the Recon Mark II is the orange almost perfectly matches the orange and the attachments that I've been printing recently, like this compensator on here. And so that's the pretty sweet part about it that I love. So now I'm gonna fire all three of them and just give you a feel for how they work. All right, so I'm just gonna be firing off some X-Shot darts out of this 18 round magazine. And so just various little things. The Recon just felt a lot cheaper. Like when you loaded it like that, the access door would always flop open. Just a little bit, like I'll do that again. So when I load it, it just flips open a little bit if you move or do anything. And I don't know, I always found that cheap and annoying. So I'm gonna fire this off. And so you can just tell the darts are barely getting out of that magazine. And if you were in an outside war or anything where you're trying to shoot distance, it's just not putting the effort in. And so it would kind of be just a very sad demonstration. So I remember when the breech system blasters first came out, this thing was so sweet. I remember so many wars I went to, everyone's got these long shots, and we were just having so much fun because we didn't realize how terrible the product we had. Not that it was terrible, for its time it was fantastic, but the Nerf has come a long way, and they've repackaged it. The price has just gone up and up, except for with the Recon Mark II, the price went down considerably because there were fewer attachments. So bravo Nerf, they gave us less, but they priced it lower. So those that just wanted a half decent, small little blaster, they got what they wanted. And so I love that part. So next I'm gonna go to the Retaliator. And so this is gonna show you just truly how, see, the reason I love the Retaliator a little bit more than the Recon is just the access door. It stays put. When you shake it, it'll still come up when you need it to. And you can clear a jam or something, but it actually locked into place. And so it just felt like they put more thought into little things where, you know, the spring worked better, the plunger tube worked better, it didn't snap off if you tried to power it up. And so it just, as a whole shot, that honestly, just from my naked eye, it looked like it shot twice as hard. It probably didn't shoot quite as hard, but that shot very hard. You're actually getting good feet per second. You're gonna get good distance out of that. I'm shooting a whiteboard behind the camera, and it's just hitting that thing so hard. And so that's one of the reasons I loved how they did the Retaliator, how it was essentially the Recon, same attachments and everything, same shell, but they just refined it and made it work a lot better. And so that's the beautiful thing of the Retaliator. Next, I'm gonna go on to the Recon Mark II and show you what happens with that. So as with all breech system blasters with a spring, you have to prime back and then you can get the magazine in. I've seen so many people just struggle with it, trying to put it in when it's already forward, and it just doesn't work. So I've got that primed. I'm gonna go ahead and take the barrel extension off. It doesn't affect it, but I just want you to see it shooting straight out of here. So, hitting with the same feet per second, it's gonna be getting the same distance as the Retaliator. And so, you know, it doesn't look like they did much implementation aside from the design was changed a little bit to fit the Modulus series since it's the white and the orange look. The stock's much smaller, and also, as a whole, it was fewer attachments. So technically you got less, but I feel like Nerf made it more accessible to people. Instead of having to buy a blaster with so many attachments that you would have to spend, you know, 50 bucks on. Instead, you could just go straight for this. I think you can find this for about $20 on Amazon right now. I could be wrong, could be more like 25. But it's pretty cheap on Amazon right now to get this because all it's got is a stock, a small little barrel, and just a very basic spring blaster that you can get not extremely competitive with, but it's gonna put up a decent fight and you're gonna be able to put magazines in it, and so you're working with the clip system. And so that's one of the reasons I was so excited when I found this in my local thrift store. And that's just a beautiful thing. So my final reflection thoughts is I'm just thinking of the evolution Nerf did with the Recon onto the Retaliator onto the Recon Mark II. First of all, I think the names were silly. They should have just gone from, if they were gonna, with the Retaliator, make it look the exact same and just improve the performance, that should have been the Recon Mark II. And I just find it a little ridiculous we're going to the Recon Mark II now with a blaster that honestly looks much different from the Recon. Just because you can see it is the exact same base blaster. It's got the same mechanics, the same priming mechanism, but the aesthetics that they did with the Recon Mark II were just much different. You know, the hand guard, the handle itself is much different. Just various styling things they did on it. It just looks like a very different blaster. As opposed to the Retaliator, which in my opinion is literally the exact same. Not even my opinion, the truth of the matter is that it is the exact same blaster, the same shell. There was almost no difference with the exterior shell, the internals, and it was just upgraded. So I find the name a little silly that we went from Recon to the Retaliator to Recon Mark II, but I understand what they were going there. And then I just want to discuss the idea that the Recon offered a very interesting blaster because it had so many accessories and parts, and that was fun as a kid. But then when I just wanted to get a good blaster, I didn't want to spend the money on getting a Retaliator that had so many extra parts. So I know a Retaliator wasn't ever really on the market for me because I was like, it's just a Recon that's a little bit better. Why would I want that? And then when the Recon Mark II came out, I wanted that blaster, because all of a sudden it was a cheaper form of the Recon that truly did improve their performance. So I loved that idea. So that's why I'm a huge fan of the Recon Mark II. I know it's been out for a while, but now that I have my hands on it and I've got to work with all three, I just love the performance I'm getting out of that. And I also just love the idea that Nerf does improve. So they do cheap things where, you know, they stop doing deco on one side and only do deco on one side, the side that they show people, and then the other side they do less paint, less deco, and just a lot less work on. And so that's sad, but at the same time Nerf has done an amazing job of taking a product and just making it a little bit better. And then I love what they did with the Recon Mark II, how they made a product better, but they made it more available by selling the attachments separately, because with the Modulus series, with like the Mediator is a $20 blaster that you can then buy the barrel extension and the stock that's built for that blaster. But you buy those separately because if you just want a simple blaster, it's easy to go spend 20 bucks as opposed to seeing a $50, $60 blaster, such as the Scavenger, which I truly want right now. But the Scavenger is about 60 bucks at my store, and because it comes with so many attachments, whereas I just wanted another lever action blaster, not with all the attachments. And so I love what they did with things like the Recon Mark II, where they're just selling a good performance blaster for less, with less attachments that we don't really need unless we want them, and then we'll go out and get them. And so that's the beauty of what Nerf did with that evolution there. If you agree with me, comment below and be like, yeah, Nerf&Turf, I totally with you. And if you don't agree, let me know. If the Recon Retaliator and Recon Mark II are some of your least favorite blasters, let me know. I'd love to talk with you about that and hear why. The other beautiful thing is like with the Retaliator in the Recon and the Recon Mark II, especially with the Retaliator, since it's such a simple shell, you can do so many improvements. Like they have the pump grip that you can add with the barrel that comes with the blaster. You can simply add a pump grip instead of this handle, because this handle does get really annoying because you can't two-hand your blaster. You have to have one hand on the top, which just doesn't help with accuracy, which is why I love the Alpha Trooper. But that's a totally different story. We're just talking about this blaster, how it offered players a simple spring-powered breech system magazine-fed blaster for pretty cheap. And so that's why I love, especially the Recon Mark II. I can't talk about how intrigued I am with that blaster enough. It's because it's pretty darn cool. So in the epic battle between which is better, the Recon Mark II or the Retaliator, I'm gonna have to say the Recon Mark II. Reasons being, it is a fantastic blaster. First of all, I think it looks amazing. And so I know that's my biased opinion. I just think it looks pretty cool. But on top of that, it's much cheaper. It's coming with fewer attachments, so you just get a really great out-of-the-box blaster that you can play with your friends and have a great time in with a stock war. However, I realized before you start yelling at me that yes, the Retaliator is fantastic for modding. You can do so much with it, especially since the barrel that comes with it, you can add a pump grip to instead of having the overhand prime. You can pump prime and you can set the breech for Steffens. You can do a whole lot with it mod-wise, and I get that. And that's why it's so many people love the Retaliator. And I understand that, and I agree with all those reasons. However, at the end of the day, I prefer the Recon Mark II. It's got a much better feel to it. I still feel like you can do the same things with it. Just get a pump kit that you can just add to it. You can build your own barrel. You can even use the barrel from the Retaliator. But at the end of it, I would still use this as the base, even if I made a pump grip for it. Just because it is a fantastic blaster. I love the aesthetics. And it's cheaper, and out of the box, you can just have a lot of fun with it. And it's easier to get your hands on than a Retaliator. I've got 2 of these now, none of the attachments. And so modding wise, I can't even do the full mod with it. And so that's a sad downside. And so for all purposes, I think nowadays the Recon Mark II is the way to go. You can find it pretty cheap on Amazon right now. And it's a great straight out of the box blaster that is a magazine fed, so you can still have all your tactical gear. You can put stuff on it. It's even got a side tack rail. How cool is a side tack rail? You can put your sights on it and you can totally and just feel awesome, which is the whole goal when you're playing Nerf. It's just to have a great time. It's not about winning. It's not about losing. I'll go to wars and people are so upset at the end that they lost. And I'm like, well, why were you here? Were you here to be the best and destroy everyone? Because that's an okay opinion, but Nerf isn't about proving you're the best. It's about having a great time. And you can prove you're the best while having a great time, but you have to be open for it. At the end of it, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. I had an awesome time enjoying a hobby with friends. It's kind of the point of it at the end of the day for me. All right, well, that's all I got. Make sure you subscribe. There should be a little circle with Nerf&Turf on it, so make sure you click that to subscribe, because I know that only about 50% of the people that watch these videos are subscribed. So what are you doing? Subscribe. That way you can be caught up whenever I put new videos out there, that you can be the first one to know and to see it, and to comment and say, hey, you're wrong. Because, I mean, let's not argue too much, but I love to hear people's feedback. I love to hear people's thoughts and discuss things like that. So, let me know. Get on out there and nerf your turf and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.